Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today, I got a top 25 deck for you. Super pumped to play this one. It's been one that I've been waiting to play for some time now, and we get a chance to play it today. So, Planeswalkers, with that said, we're going to talk about the main board. We'll talk about the sideboard. We'll bring those two together for our best of 3 matches, and then we'll go ahead and play some matches, but we're going to play in best of 1 today because of historic all access. So, very excited about that. Gives us an opportunity to take another look at our historic decks. So, Planeswalkers, before we talk about this top 25 deck, I just want to say thank you. I truly appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on daily content like this. You can stay in touch with my Mythic journey down below with my Untapped profile, and there I've got the companion app tracker for you as well, so you can share yours with me. And then last but not least, other ways to support the channel, feel free to become a patron or a YouTube member. Always appreciate that and love the ways that we can interact with the different benefits. All right, Planeswalkers, let's go ahead and check out this top 25 deck. So today we have a top 25 Mono Black Aggro deck. So I am ecstatic about this one because it has gotten some nice pluses and improvements from Kaladesh. So very exciting to talk about. And additionally, due to the historic all access, we can definitely go ahead and play some best of 1. So first off, this is a mono black deck because it is mono black. It is only swamps. And then additionally, well, I guess you could say artifacts too technically, but mono black, only land base. And then it's an aggro deck because it is fast, my friends. It is super fast, and we can see that here with all the things that we got going on. We've seen the replacement here of a scrap heap coming in from Kaladesh and a few other things which we'll talk about here in a minute. There's other versions from Amonkhet as well that run some pretty quick 1-drops that I know a lot of people like to play also. So Planeswalkers, the objective of this is to essentially burn down your opponents really fast with these creatures here, and go for those lovely quick wins that we all like with aggro decks. Now, Planeswalkers deck list is available for you down below in the description. Links available for you down below in the description. And this particular deck here is also by the player of the name Dr. Zeus. So congratulations, Dr. Zeus, on your top 25 with this lovely mono black aggro deck as well. And then also, Planeswalkers, in the description is the Discord server, so you guys can absolutely feel free to hop in there. We got a lot of awesome people, so feel free to come hang out with us. All right, so we'll go through the deck here, quick flyby, so that you guys can see everything in its totality here, because that is important to me as we discuss the decks, and then we'll go through and talk about each of these cards by themselves. So first off here, we got Fatal Push. So this is a big one from Kaladesh, and yes, I can definitely craft this one. So don't give me too hard of a time. I just haven't drafted actually that many Fatal Pushes, believe it or not, and I've done a lot of draft. So here, Fatal Push from Kaladesh here is an instant. We can destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less, or we can trigger Revolt, which this ability triggers if another permanent we control left the battlefield this turn. Here we destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less instead. If a permanent, like I said, we control left the battlefield. Then we got good old Gutter Bones. Here, Gutter Bones enters the battlefield tapped. For 2, we can return it from our graveyard to our hand. We can only activate this ability during our turn and only if an opponent lost life. We got good old Knight of the Ebon Legion. So creature vampire here, it can get +3/+3. If we pump it for 3, it gains Death Touch as well until end of turn. And then at the beginning of our end step, if a player lost 4 life or more this turn, we can put a +1/+1 counter on this guy, and he gets pretty beefy fast. Then we got good old Thoughtseize. So Thoughtseize here, sorcery card, target player reveals their hands. We choose a non-land card from it. That player then discards that card, and we lose 2 life. We got Scrap Heap Scrunger. Like I said, this is a newcomer again from Kaladesh. Again, making this deck very viable and adding to it. Scrap Heap can't block. For 2, we can exile another creature card from our graveyard, return this card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So big body at 3/2 there. Then we got Skyclave Shade. So Shade here is a 2-drop, a 3/1. It can't block, very aggressive. We can return it from the battlefield and pay 3, for 2, or we can pay the kicker. If it enters the battlefield with the kicked payment, it gets +2/+2, or 2/1/1 counters on it. And then landfall, we can return it from our graveyard and also kick it. So very, very powerful. We also have Heart of Cure in here. So we got a flying vigilance 4/4 artifact vehicle. We can crew it for 3, which means we got to tap any number of creatures we control with power 3 or more, and then this vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Again, the key here is that it's got flying and vigilance, gives us an ability to go over the top. We may also remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker we control rather than pay its crew cost, which is pretty sweet. Now, we aren't running any planeswalkers, but something to consider. Then we got good old Rotting Reg from M20. So here at the beginning of our upkeep, we discarded cards, so it plays well with Scrap Heap, plays well with Skyclave, so keep that in mind. And then a lovely 7/6er. And then we got good old Demonic Embrace. So we got a 7/6er. We can make it a 10/7 here on the next turn, and that's usually pretty good enough for lethal. But especially in Historic, enchanted creature gets +3/+1, has flying, and is a demon in addition to its other types. Again, you can discard this card. We can bring it back from the graveyard by paying 3 and discarding another card in addition to paying its mana cost. We got Lurrus. So here we got a lifelinker again, companion. We're not playing it as a companion, so that doesn't matter here. During each of our turns, we may cast 1 permanent spell with convert mana cost 2 or less from our graveyard. We got good old Agadim's Awakening here, a modal land from Zendikar's Rising. We can return from our graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different convert mana cost X or less. So with 3, you can pretty much get everything. 4, it's a done deal. And then we have my good old friends, another side of this coin here, where it can be a land. We can pay the 3 and it can come in untapped, or you can have it come in tapped. Then last but not least here, we got 2 top-end guys, Rankle Master of Planks, same thing. Walk the plank, my friend. It's going to be a fast match. Anyway, Flying Haste, when it deals damage to the target player, we can choose any of the 3, but you can also choose none. So don't forget that. A lot of people always forget that. But each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life, draws a card, and each player sacrifices a creature. And then last but not least, another oldie but goodie, Spawn of Mayhem. So this guy's got Flying Trample. It's got Spectacle 3, which is when you deal damage. You can have this guy come in for 1 less cost, or its Spectacle cost. And then at the beginning of our upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then if we have 10 or less life, we can put a +1/+1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. So let's apply these lovely styles here. Then in the lands, we got Castle Lochwin here, where we have our good old castle for 3. We can pay 3. We can draw a card with lose life equal to the number of cards in our hand. We got our swamps, and then we got our Crawling Barrens, which I love from Zendikar's Rising. I think every deck should have this. A walking land for 4. We can put +2/+2 or +1/+1, 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and we may have it become a creature. So keep that in mind. That's always important. Very, very fast, very, very robust. We got 23 lands, 27 with Agadims, so lots of things that we can do. And then let's talk a little bit about the sideboard here. So first off, we got Deadweight. We got Enchant Creature, -2/-2. You're going to play this against other aggro decks. It works well in the mirror match. It works well against goblins. Works well when you got to take stuff off the board. You can play it well against the Fauna Shaman deck that we just did, the Selesnya one. It can work well even against the combo deck that we just did, the Simic Paradox one, to keep things like Kinnan off the board and some of the mana dorks. So those are some ideas and areas where you can play that. Obviously against any aggro deck, mono red, works good against sack decks, Jund or Rakdos. Works well against Aura's decks as well, Orzhov or Orzhov or Azores. Sorry, there we go. Then we got Divest. So Divest is an interesting sorcery card here. Target player reveals their hand, you choose an artifact or a creature card from it, that player discards that card. So important against the one that I just named off with Paradox Engine. Anything running artifacts, definitely get rid of. There's definitely mono artifact decks. You guys saw that with the last deck that I just ran, Selesnya Fauna one as well. So things to keep in mind. Or creature card decks, so great against aggro as well. Great against decks where you need to remove specific creatures. So Divest is a nice one. I was going to say it's kind of the opposite of Duress here, so that's a good segue. So Duress, another sorcery card. Target opponent reveals their hand. We choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. So this narrows us out of the creature side. You're going to play this more in the mid-range or late-game matches, particularly against things like Sultai mid-range, Azores. Auras works well. Also Azores Control, or Gandalf Control as we like to say, for the #1 Zendikar Mastered deck for Historic. Works well against Neostorm as well, Mono White Prison, Mono Blue Tempo, those things. And also can't forget the Gift deck. Whew. All right. Still going here, we got Soul Guide Lantern. Here, when it enters the battlefield, they exile a target card from a graveyard. We can sack it, exile an opponent's graveyard, and then lastly there we can draw a card. Works well against other Lurrus decks. Works well against the Rakdos Arcanus decks. Works well against sack decks. Jund or Rakdos works well against some of the Sultai decks too, to get Euro out of there, those kinds of things. So lots of great spots for this. You could play this against the Rogues decks if you wanted to as well. Next we got Legion's End. So this is a very powerful card. People forget about this one quite often. A great one from M20. Here we can exile target creature and opponent controls with convert mana cost 2 or less, and all other creatures that player controls with the same name as that creature. Then that player reveals their hand and exiles all cards with a name from that hand and graveyard. So good against aggro decks, good against low-hanging fruit decks, low to the ground decks, I should say, not low-hanging fruit, but it practically is low-hanging fruit when you play this Legion's End card. Great against Mirror Match, great against Mono Red, great against Auras decks, great against Mono White Life Gain decks too, great against Goblin decks, great against Gruul Aggro, great against Arcanus decks, great against a lot of stuff, my friends. So don't forget that. That's a good one to switch in. Then we got Witch's Vengeance. So this is very popular for board wiping. Here, creatures of the creature type of our choice get -3/-3 to end turn. Mainly tribal decks, goblins, mono green. I should say that for the other one too. Mono green elves. Lots of things that you can hit with this, so keep this one in mind. Good on, again, Auras decks too. If you have to go to 3, generally they're going to be pretty well stacked at 3, so it's a little slow. But, you know, it's always a consideration to get some of the things off the board if you need to as well. Then we got Leyline of the Void, a very powerful card. If Leyline of the Void is in our opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. If a card would be put into opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, so better than Trap, which is Grafdiggers. You're going to play this against sack decks. You're going to play this against Sultai mid-range. You're going to play it against Sultai Control. You're going to play it against anything leveraging their graveyard. Jund sack, Rakdos sack, like we said, anything running Lurrus, so Auras, could be Rogues decks, Rakdos Arcanus as well. This thing shuts stuff down, so don't forget that. Then we got one of my favorite cards, actually, Midnight Oil. I really like this one. I drafted it, had a ton of fun. Here, Midnight Oil enters the battlefield with 7 hour counters on it at the beginning of our draw step. Draw an additional card, remove 2 hour counters from it. And then our maximum hand size is equal to the number of hour counters of Midnight Oil. And then whenever we discard a card, we lose 1 life. So, great against mid-range and late game. So when we run out of gas juice, when we need a draw, this is what you're going to want to play. I don't mind it against aggro actually too. At 4, it's just going to keep things flowing, and you're going to be pretty healthy. You're going to be playing everything once you're at 4 anyway, so you don't really have to worry. And getting that extra draw tilt is going to be very, very important and very, very powerful for you. So keep that in mind. I like it against a lot of the aggro decks. If you want to, I actually don't mind flipping it in for some other things, which we'll talk about here in a minute. mid-range or late game, definitely viable options. Things like control, if you need to slam it on the board, might give you a draw advantage kind of a thing. Can be very important, like UW. Also against Aura's decks, it can be helpful, Orzhov or Azores. And last but not least, my friends, we got Phyrexian Obliterator. So here we got, this creature's got trample. Whenever a source deals damage to a Phyrexian Obliterator, that source controller sacks that many permanents. So anything running permanents, you're going to play this. I would play it against aggro decks. You know, you could play it against mid-range. You could play it against late game too, because, you know, if they're losing lands, you're going to be good. Most likely they're not going to deal damage to it, though, in the mid to late game. So, you know, they'll probably have some sort of exile. So it's at that point, it becomes a waste. So really the focus here is going to be goblins. It's going to be, and it's a good trade, too. Goblins, mono red aggro, Gruul aggro, great against... you could play it against Rakdos Sack, to be honest, because it's going to evade a lot of things. Jund Sack, you could play it, or it's good against. Anything that's more mid-range, late game, you know, you can stay away from. Maybe against Mono White Prison, depends on that one. It's a thought, though. So, anyway, that is the main board. That is the sideboard. We're going to talk about how we pull these two together now for a best of 3. And we're going to go play some Friday Night Magic here and play some best of 1. Super pumped. So here's what we got going on. We'll talk about aggro. We'll talk about from mid-range. We'll talk about from late game. So aggro, my friends, we could play, if we wanted to, we could play Deadweight. We could play Divest. And we're already sitting okay here. We could play Legion's End for sure. That can give you a 1-up. You could play Witch's Vengeance, probably skip. And like I said, Midnight Oil's not bad, particularly to get the reload depending on what you're playing. So let's go 4 to 6. First off, I'd probably cut 2 lands because we do have Agadeems. And then where would I cut? You know, depending on what they're doing. If they have a couple of different options, you know, I would look to say it kind of depends. I like Thoughtseize a lot, but if you're just pull out, I mean, if they're goblins, then you might not want to. But I would actually take a look at Thoughtseize potentially, because you can still get what you need to here with Divest without paying the life. So that's a good one to switch in. Similar with Duress and some of the other stuff, so you can think about it from that perspective. Legion's End as well, and maybe just let it hit the board and then hit it with Legion's End. So that could give you 6 pretty quickly there if you wanted to. So that's a thought. You also got Fatal Push to move things off, also at instant speed instead of sorcery speed. So, you know, that's kind of where I would think, to be honest. I still like the top end action here and options. So that's just how I look at it, honestly. But if you really want to keep removing things out of their hand and still bring some of those things in, you know, what you could do is you could drop a Demonic Embrace. I still like the ability to go over the top, but just hitting in with a big body at 3 anyway is probably going to do a lot of it for you. You could look to... either remove Scrap Heap Scrounger as well and play a little bit lighter in the 2-drop, or you could go towards the top end too. I would actually prefer Rankle over Spawn of Mayhem, just to kind of get in that other crushing blow, and because it's got haste, going to be very important for you and a little bit more situational. So that's kind of what I would do, Planeswalkers, in terms of the aggro matchup. Now in terms of the mid-range, a little bit different game. You may want to play Thoughtseize depending on, again, what they're doing. If they're creature-based or non-creature-based, you still obviously have these options. You're probably not going to play Deadweight. You probably play Soul Guide Lantern. Legion's End will hit Croxa, so keep that in mind. So if it is a sack deck or Canis deck, it's going to hit a lot of things there. So that could be one. Leyline of the Void may be one. Midnight Oil could be one. And sorry, I apologize. I would have put Phyrexian Obliterator 2 against aggro. But you should still be good with what you would change up there. So again, let's go to 4 to 6. You're going to pivot a little bit here. And I'm saying a little bit because you may not need Fatal Push, and Fatal Push may miss. So you can keep that in mind. Again, it's depending on the kind of deck that you're going to play. If it is sack, you can keep this in here. You know, the other things that I would then begin to look at, if they aren't really playing, or you don't have to worry about the flying side, get rid of Heart of Kirin. You can get rid of these at the top end and then pull some of these other things in to have a little bit better of a mid-range battle, and then become a little bit more targeted in terms of what you're doing and remove your one-off options. And then again, you could always cut 2 lands. So that gives you a good 5-6 there pretty easily. I like Luris still, and again, depending on what they're doing, if they are more direct kill, you're going to want to keep these because you can bring them back from a graveyard, which is pretty important. And then you could always remove some of the fatal push kind of things. So that's mid-range. Now when we get to the late game, that's going to be a totally different ball game. So you're going to want to keep the Thoughtseize. You're probably not going to run the Divest. You're probably going to want to run Duress. You may want to run Soul Guide. Leyline of the Void you probably will run. In Midnight Oils you might run too. So again, 4 to 6. And then what I would do, to be honest, to kind of shift some of these things up, you want to stay low and keep some of your guys on the board. I would look to get rid of these, maybe even Heart of Kiran. That gives you 3, and again some lands. So that should give you 5, and that will keep you on pace for what you need. Or you can get rid of the fatal pushes, because if you're not going to hit creatures, then definitely get rid of the 4 fatal pushes, and then you can kind of look at keeping some of these other things. And if you wanted to get a body like Phyrexian on, a 5/5 is still gonna lock in the game, but you have that ability to play this back and things with Ride and Reg. So that's pretty much all you're going to need anyway. You just got to protect your board, and that's by having these guys look at their hand and play around that. So that is the aggro matchup. That is the mid-range matchup, and that is the late game matchup in terms of best of 3. Very, very exciting, very strong main board. Definitely a good sideboard to kind of move things around. Again, Planeswalkers, this deck list is available for you down below in the description. The deck link is available for you down there too. If you got questions or comments, let me know. Again, this particular deck is by a player of the name of Dr. Zeus. And now we are going to go play some Magic here in our F&M. I am so pumped. Yeah, we'll save and exit. Okay. So Friday Night Magic, there's the Selesnya Fauna one I was talking about. So here we go. Let's go ahead and play this. All right, Planeswalkers, we are off on our Friday night here against Philly Funbags. Boom. Now, Planeswalkers, as always, before we get started and decide if I want to keep this hand, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down below over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on content like this daily. And then additionally, my friends, feel free to support the channel. Other ways down below in the description. Otherwise, you could become a patron, or feel free to sign up for YouTube membership here for the channel. Lots of great ways to interact and lots of great benefits for you. All right. Let's go ahead and check this out. We'll keep 7. I kept it because I got lands. My curve's a little wonky here. Now it's real wonky. Alright, so we got the goblins deck going. Generally speaking, they're not going to attack here. So we can keep this though, because we'll be able to hit a lot of stuff. Don't need to hit anything yet. Now, we could have killed a goblin. So if they play, Mind Stone here. So we don't have lethal yet. I'm gonna do this though. We didn't have lethal, so we're gonna play this guy. Because I still have Fatal Push on 2. Which is more so what I cared about. It's keeping that open. Rankle would have swung in. We could have pumped him. Still not enough. Boom! Cleared out a Goblins deck here for our first match. Into our second one now for best of one. Very, very fast games. That's something I do like a lot of times about best of one historic for sure. Alright, here we go into our second matchup, Planeswalkers. Now, if you have questions or comments about gameplay, let me know down below as well. Deck, let me know. Feel free to hop in the Discord channel. We're playing the Fed. We'll see how this goes. So I got a nice curve so far. We're gonna want/need another land here, but we'll see how it goes. I do like this start. Alright, this is most likely looking like, so far, a Neostorm deck. Absolutely. So we gotta move fast. We don't have any creatures on the board though yet, so that is one benefit for us at the moment. So I did Heart of Kiran, as now I can drop Scrap Heap or Skyclave, and then that will pump Heart, and we can attack it next turn. There we go. That is something nice. I will actually do this. Now, that gives us Fatal Push, too, which is real nice if we need it. So here's what we can do. So we can play Scrap Heap again and pop Heart of Kiran. We do have our instant kill spell here. That's why I left that one open. There we go. Now they can't hit. Can't hit Neostorm. They can't hit it. So now what I need to decide, here is we don't have lethal. We're so close. They can, however, get Neostorm off, potentially, this turn. So against this deck, and the last one, I would have sideboarded in the card that's was the opposite of duress. I'm blanking on the name. And then here I would have put in duress to pull things out of their hand. This particular one's very important in terms of their combo, so we just have to be aware of that. We still have Thoughtseize, which helps us. We have Fatal Push, which helps us, so we have to keep those low cast cost cards available to us to interrupt the combo like this one, because it can get moving really, really fast. And luckily for us, they didn't have, we got it, they didn't have it, and they kept looking for what they needed, and they didn't have the creatures early game. So very, very nice. That one excels when you have 2 creatures on the board. They did not have that, and we had the right response in hand. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, on to our third and final match, Planeswalkers in our best of 1. As always, again, just a huge thank you. I appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Twitch. Stay up to date on daily content like this. Before we play Endless Void, other ways to support the channel down below in the description. You can hop in the Discord server. Also, you could become a patron, or you can become a YouTube or member for the channel. Lots of awesome ways to interact, you guys. I love doing the deck list. I love interacting with you. So let's go ahead now and decide. I'm going to keep this. We got a great curve here. And we're first. So we've played the Goblins deck. It's a top deck. We've played Neostorm, which is a top deck. And now we'll see what we got going on here. That's real aggressive. So it could be an Aura's deck. They're not running Aura's. Could be a combo deck too, I guess. Ooh, mono white. All right. There you go. 9 lives it is. I don't think we're going to be able to get this one fast enough, my friends. Whoa. I don't think there's anything in our deck to help with this. Nope. We don't have anything. Alright, so we're not going to play it out because we literally can't win. So we'll close out here 2-1 in best of 1. And then we will talk. I'll tell you how to sideboard for this one in particular. So, Planeswalkers, that was a nice best of 1 round today. There's another very popular deck for best of 1 and best of 3, the 9 lives deck. So quickly here, we went 2-1 in our best of 1. Very, very healthy. Here's what we got going on. So if we would have played the 9 lives deck, what you needed to sideboard in was both Divest and Duress, in my opinion. If they do run artifacts in their particular deck, otherwise don't put Divest in there. Duress you're absolutely going to need. Midnight Oil I would run too, just to kind of stay in front of it. But that's a tough one for this deck to beat. Pretty much one of the only ones that I think's got a hard lockout on this deck. So Planeswalkers, I'll move this here. That is what we have today in our competitive Magic. The other two decks that we played. Again, I would have played Duress against the Neostorm deck. You could have played Legion's End too. I mean, that would take creatures off. Leyline of the Void could have been something, or Midnight. You're not really gonna need those, but you gotta be quick. And then the first matchup was against Goblins. Deadweight works. Divest would have worked. Legion's End would have worked nicely, and that's probably where I would have stayed with those. So, Planeswalkers, questions or comments, let me know down below. Again, this is the deck list for you. It is in the description, so you have access to it right away. Super, super fun matches here for F&M. We played some top decks, absolutely. That's one of the things I like, and that's one of the things that you're going to see, obviously, doing these kinds of things. Planeswalkers, lastly, as always, again, just a huge thank you. I really do appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on daily content like this. Other ways to support the channel, down below in the description. Like I've said, you can become a patron. You can become a member as well. Great other ways to interact, and very, very nice. And I enjoy doing it, absolutely. So, Planeswalkers, you stay safe. Until next time, Mythras out. I'll see you again soon, and stay tuned, Planeswalkers.